Alrighty, let's go ahead and talk about chicken. What we're going to do is fabricated chicken. And when I say that, I mean that we are going to take a whole chicken, and from the butcher's perspective, we're going to fabricate it into parts that I could sell in a butcher shop or to restaurants. What you will need to do this are a boning knife and your chef knife. Okay, you can do it with a paring knife and a chef knife if you want, but the boning knife is worth the money. You can get a very good one for $20. Lots of different brands, really good. And if you do this 4 or 5 times, you've paid for the knife just through the extra chicken that we get. Now, the reason that we would want to take the time to cut up a chicken all on our own is because a 2 chicken breast without the chicken tenders will run you about $5 or $6, even up to $7, depending where you go. And a whole fryer chicken will cost you about $7. So for that extra money, we can spend an extra 2 minutes of time, cut up this chicken, and then have that extra $7. And like I said, if you do this 4 or 5 times, you've paid for your knife already just in that extra chicken. So when we are fabricating a chicken, the most important thing is that you are always going to be cutting from right to left or left to right, depending on what your dominant hand is. We are not going to we are going to actually move the turkey or the chicken around to match that, as opposed to us trying to match ahead. Because if we're trying to cut something over here and you're holding it and you have your knife here, you can't even see your fingers at this point. And so you want to make sure that we're not cutting ourselves. It'll always just be, for me, it'll always be from my right to my left. Okay. And first thing that you want to do for your chicken is make sure that it's nice and relaxed. What I like to do is give my chicken one last dance and just let them go, have a great little time, and let the chicken dance. Then you want to give them some calisthenics, some leg lifts, okay, some bends. Okay, make sure that your chicken is nice and relaxed for this. What we're really doing, even though I'm just goofing off, what I am doing is making sure that all of the joints, the tendons and ligaments, are stretched out. It's going to make it a lot easier for us to cut. In fact, if you wanted, you could even give your chicken here just kind of a nice little back rub. That works too. Okay, you can flop it around. Whatever you want to do, have fun with the chicken. But the key is, right now, this is a very relaxed chicken. That means that we have done a very good job on stretching those joints, and it's going to make it a lot easier for us. So let's start up here. Okay, again, we're going to start with our wings. The wings are the easiest things. Easiest things to cut. Take your boning knife, and we're going to make small little cuts with the end of the knife. We don't want to make a big cut, because if it's not in the right spot and we make a big cut, then we're making a big cut in the meat, and that can damage the flavor. At the very least, as a butcher, it's not going to be as pretty to sell, and you might have to end up cutting it up and using it as stew meat or something along those lines. So if we get into our chicken, right in here on your chicken, there's a joint. And you can feel that, and you can kind of even see it, like right here. That's where our joint is, and that's where we're going to want to go through with our first cuts. Okay. So again, making very small cuts here. And then after you get just a little of the way in, you can actually see the tendons and ligaments that we're trying to cut. And so I'll just work right around those. And at this point, you can lift it up off the ground and let the chicken, the weight of the chicken, do the work. And that makes it a lot easier. Now, when you want to serve these wings, I like to serve them. I stretch them out, and I put a bamboo rod through them and just marinate them, and then bake them that way. When they're done baking, pull the rod out, and they'll stay like this. They're a lot easier to eat, and they look different, so they taste a little bit better just because they look different. Or you can do what we call locking up the wing. What you do is take the top part of the wing, and we're going to touch it to the top part of where the joint was, and just roll it underneath like that. Okay, that's called locking up the joint. And if you were doing it for any sort of competition, or as far as American culinary standards go, this is the way that you would present it. Okay, so I'm going to keep my pieces there, and we'll take a look at this at the very end. Now we're going to go to the other wing. So come along to this side. Okay, see right here is our joint. Again, we're just going to make Small little cuts, and I'm letting the weight of the chicken do all of the work. Okay. Now, unfortunately, this one has been damaged. Okay, this chicken leg or chicken wing has been pretty damaged. The bones are both sticking out. Honestly, this part of the meat would be ruined. I most likely with this piece, I'm just going to cut this bottom part off and try and use the drumette. Because when we bake, if the bones are broken, the marrow and some of the other stuff from the inside of the bone is going to get into the meat and change the flavor. Okay. As far as the American Culinary Federation is concerned, you can cut the cartilage, but you can't cut the bone. Because if you cut the bone, everything from the inside can leak out, and that's going to destroy the flavor. If I tried to cook this whole, these broken pieces here very well could ruin the flavor for that. So we're just going to pretend to lock that up and put it up there. Okay, next I'm going to come to the quarters, the thighs and the legs. First, just make a nice cut right through here on both sides. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll go underneath and just kind of cut this skin out because we don't need it, it's in the way. And since we do healthy cooking, we don't want this fat anyway. But this fat, as far as culinary world is concerned, is usable waste. So we wouldn't want to actually throw it away. We would just put it off to the side and save it for later, be it a broth or making cracklings or any other sort of thing. But this would be something that we would want to save on, because as a butcher, everything you throw away is lost money. So I'll just kind of keep that right over there out of the way. Same thing on this side. Okay. Oops. Okay. See all this stuff right here? Pretty nasty stuff, all the pin feathers and all of that. We just don't want it anyhow. Okay. Now, right along here are the thigh bones for the chicken. What I'm going to do is just grab right along those thigh bones and then pop them out. Okay, such a lovely sound. I love when I have a vegetarian in this class. The looks on their face is always worth it. Now when we get up close, you can see we've got the bone sticking out here. Didn't have to worry about cutting anything because we just popped it out. What I'm going to do is put my knife, oops, I'm going to start from this other one here, because again we're going right to left. I'm going to put my knife in here, bring that bone back out, pick it up a little bit. You're just going to bring your knife underneath that bone, okay, oops, underneath the bone as much as we can, and then just angle it in towards the carcass here. Okay, right here, this is what's called the oyster. For what we're going to do, it's not that big of a deal because we can save the carcass and make a broth out of it later on. I missed a little bit out of it here. If I left an ounce on every chicken and I was doing 80 chickens a day as a butcher, that is a lot of wasted money. So we try, as the standards go, you try to get the oyster. It'd be this part right here. And in classes, I tell them not to worry too much about it because it is kind of a technical way to cut it. But for classes and for home cooking, definitely it's not that huge of a deal because we'll just use the carcass to make a stock later on anyway, or a broth later on anyway. Okay, flip it over to the other side, and we're going to do the same thing. Okay. Oops. Let's do it from right here. Okay, slide it in. Again, the weight of the chicken did most of the work there. I got almost all of the oyster this time. Okay, as we can see, I got most of that right there. Okay, for right now, I'm going to set this off to the side and we'll come back to that part later. For healthy cooking, the easiest way to skin your chicken is right now. Okay, we're just going to pull it off. And okay, usually it's a little easier than that. But then we've got our chicken skin there again. Come back up here, I'll trim this a little bit off. Okay. And you could trim this off later on if you, well, there's enough there, let's go ahead and just get rid of it. Okay. So this is your chicken quarter now. Okay. Same thing over here. Now for the chicken legs and quarters, I try to stretch out the knee joint here on both of these. Okay, sometimes you can even hear it pop, then you know you're doing good. Now if you come down here, if you try to cut it from the top, it's kind of misleading because it looks like the joint's over here, but really the joint is more over here. If we come from the bottom though, you can see where this fat lines up and where these two muscle groups meet right here. That is where your knee joint is. So just hold it like this. Okay, and see we've got the knee joint right here. And now we've got our chicken thigh and our chicken leg. Same thing over here. I'm just going to hold on to the thigh. See right there, it fell apart on me, which is just perfect. Oops. So again, a thigh and a leg, nice and easy. So let's put these in our tray. There we go, make them look all nice and pretty. There we go. Okay, and I'll come back to the tray over here in a minute. Now just skin the top of it. Okay, it seems pretty in-depth. Once you get a little bit of practice, it's fairly easy. I can do a chicken in about 1:55 seconds if I'm not goofing around, and it's a cooperative chicken. Martin Yan can do a chicken in 90 seconds, but he doesn't cut it to the same standards we do. He has, coming from China, he has different standards, but he only uses a cleaver, so I'll call it even. All right, so in our chicken, right here there's a joint. Okay, you're going to be able to feel it, and you can kind of see how it moves right there. That's our joint. We're going to put our knife in through this way and try to cut through the ribs and out there on both sides. Okay. Okay, if you want, you could actually use just kitchen shears here and cut straight through. Put your knife through and find that where that joint is. Okay. There it is. Okay, now if you do that, be very careful. Don't put your hand in the way when you are pushing your knife through the chicken. And then I'm just going to hold onto your chicken breast like this. Oops. And cut right through. Okay, come over to this side and we'll do the exact same thing. Coming from the other direction. Hold on to the chicken breast really good. Okay, that side was a little more cooperative. Now the carcass, this is something we can save, and we can use this for broths later on. I always worry when the bright red blood, is it mine? No, okay, it's chicken blood, we're good. This we save and use as a carcass. I'll freeze them until I get 2 or 3 of them, and then I'll make a broth with the carcass here. So this is something that for home cooking we can hold on to, and if you happen to miss the oyster, like I did on this one, no big deal, because this flavor is going into the broth that we're going to eat later on. So I'll put that right there. Like that. Okay, that leaves us with our 2 chicken breasts. Okay, got a little fat. Okay, just get rid of that. Now what we're going to do is bring it over to the bottom side. And if your hands start to get wet, dry them off. If your knife starts to get wet, dry it off, because the last thing you want to do is slip and hurt yourself just because your hands were wet. We're going to pull out our chef knife now. Okay? Now, on the chicken, you can see I call it the feather. It's this little bit right here. You can see it. To me, it looks like a feather. And right up here where the wishbone would be, there's a little notch. What I'm going to do is line my knife up in the middle of the little notch and the center of this feather. If you can see, there's a white strip in the feather, and that is basically where we want the knife to go, and right up here. So I'm going to line these up and then just press through. Now, I like to keep my knives very, very sharp. It is a point of pride for me how sharp my knives are. If your knives are not as sharp as mine, when you get to this point, you may have to hit down to push the knife through. In fact, that is perfectly, actually that's normal. I'm the weird one being able to push through without hitting it. So most chefs in any videos you see with this, other than myself, they'll slam down the knife. Problem is, remember these little bones here that we cut through, the joints? If you missed the joint and went through the bone, you can have a very, very sharp piece right here. Okay, I have seen someone slam down and put a broken chicken bone 1/4 of an inch into their hand. So you want to be very, very careful with that. Okay. Now at this point, you can see I caught it right in the middle. You've got pieces of the cartilage right on both sides, and this is what it should look like. From here, I actually like to leave the bone on, because if you bake it or you grill it, one of the places that you lose most of the moisture is on that bottom part, where the bottom part here, where you've ripped all of this off and it's open meat. Because if you think about it, when you look at a chicken breast in the store, this side's all nice and pretty, and this side's kind of jagged and cut up. Okay, so you lose a lot of the moisture from there. And if you think about it, what way do we put it on the grill first usually? Like this. So as we're cooking, all of that moisture gets a chance to run out, where this has that protective layer over top of the muscles still. That nice little film that would help protect some of that. So leaving the bone on does help protect that, and then after it's cooked, you can peel it right off. Or for me, for barbecues, it gives you something to hold on to. Because I always stay away from the chicken breast at barbecues, because that means you need a plate and fork and a knife, and you're trying to stand up and talk and cut. So if you barbecue them like this, you have something to hold on to when you are eating your chicken breast. However, for this, we are going to cut them out of cut them off of the bones here so we can get to the tenderloin. So we're done with the chef knife. That's all we needed that for. Now this is the only time I will ever teach that you want to angle your knife blade. Okay, what I'm going to do is find this part right here, and I'm actually, rather than cutting straight down, I'm going to angle the blade a little bit like this, and in essence I'm scraping the meat off of this cartilage or this bone. So when we do this, okay, if you push this straight up and down and you try and do this, you're going to cut small little pieces, small little pieces, small little pieces. It'll be really rough and jagged. So you can see that came off really smoothly there, because all I really did was peel that away from the bone here. Now this we don't need, so very gently, again, we can kind of just scrape that off. Same thing up this way. Okay, now sometimes when you're doing this, you might actually hold the knife away from you and scrape. This is one of the few places something like that is acceptable, but be very careful. Okay. So now we've got this here. We're just going to cut it away from the bone. Again, we don't want to leave it any if we can help it. Okay. Just coming back, we're going to, again, just scrape away from whatever this little sticky part is. Okay, now at this point, I've cut away from just about all of the bone. Okay, so we can see I'm just kind of scraping away here. Another reason for the small little cuts, because if you do make a mistake, it's not going to be a very big one. Okay, I basically cut all the way from here. So I'm going to get underneath here and trim that out. Okay. Now up here, you can actually pull a lot of this away with your thumb. Trim that down. Okay. And come around here. Trim some of that off. Now right here, this is part of the wishbone that we've got stuck in. Okay, right here, this is part of the wishbone now. So all you really need to do is kind of reach in there. And you can either push it out, or once you get it separated like that, you can just put one finger in the back where the back of the bone is and just break it off. You can just break it off. That's what you can do. If that happens, just kind of dig it out. It doesn't make it as pretty anymore, but you don't want to serve it with your wishbone in there. Still. You can do 100 of these at home and not have a single problem. You turn the camera on once and everything messes up. Now I'm just going to go back here and make sure I cleaned up everything from before. Okay, this part, we don't need that on there anymore. So I'm just going to slip my knife underneath and trim it off. Okay. And now what we've got is chicken breast and the tenderloin. Okay, the tenderloin on any animal is the most tender cut. Okay, if you eat chicken tenders that don't come from McDonald's or a press, this is what you're getting. If you buy chicken tenders in the store, you're getting the tenderloin, which again is the best cut of meat. And now look at the bottom here, it's a nice pretty clean cut. Got a little trouble down here, but that's okay. Okay. I'm going to trim this a little bit off here with the fat. And you lay this down and you've got a picture perfect chicken breast and your tenderloin. Okay. All right, one more time with this guy. We're going the other way. I can come around a little bit. Start up here. Okay, I have the knife angled in towards this way, and I'm just okay, see how easily that comes away from the bone there. And actually, of the whole process, this is the most time-consuming part of fabricating a chicken. And I have been accused of serving things, chicken breast on the bone, just because I don't like doing this. And I won't lie to you, that's not too far off from the truth. And now at this point, it's really easy just to let the weight of the chicken do the work. Although I lost a little piece there. Okay, again, here's our wishbone. Here's the bottom of the wishbone. That time it worked out perfect. Just push it right up. Easy peasy. Okay, a little bit ragged this time, but I was trying to do it backwards and sideways. I think I did okay under the circumstances. Okay, and with just a little bit of trimming, a very nice looking roast. All right. Now if I were to reassemble my chickens, this is what it would look like. Basically, we've got our chicken put back together. And we can see it's sliding. The director's saying higher, higher, left, left, but it's sliding. He doesn't do higher, higher. Okay, but you get the picture. For a cooking class, nobody needs to know that. It's just kind of a fun thing that makes it look like you really know what you're doing, and gives you a little step of credibility. All right, now I'm gonna dry this off, and let's do the second one again, just kind of quick. Now, I like teaching this class because this class, when we do it, it's one that everybody can do, and everybody likes to save money, and it is one of the more popular classes, and so I do enjoy doing this one. All right, so here's your second chicken. Out of the way. Okay, see, he's not very relaxed, so do a little dancing. Okay, a little massage. Some deep tissue massage here. Okay. And then leg lifts. Okay, calisthenics. Okay, there we go. I hope you're not actually timing this. Okay, you can see this is what it looks like when you get all of the oyster. I got all of it that time. And got most of it that time.